Hello and welcome to New Game Plus. My name is Donald and I'm joined by Megan. How are you in the Electronic Entertainment Expo week?
I'm super psyched. I'm happy to be here. I live for this shit. It's going to be the most exciting episode ever.
Like normally on E3 episodes, these are hard for us normally because we record before all the big exciting announcements, all the big reveals. But this year's a little different because everything has been revealed already. We can talk about Battlefield 5, we can talk about Rage 2, we can talk about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we can talk about Pokemon. Let's go.
Yes, we can. I'm pretty sad about this, to be totally honest. I feel like what is left to even reveal? I think some of them are supposed to be like a drip feed, accidentally leaked. Oh, look at that whole layout from every single publisher about what titles they're going to be doing on their presentation. But half the time I'm like, is it, they want their own limelight, or is it guerrilla marketing? Like, what kind of strategies are there? But what's left?
It's making you think about everything but the actual games themselves.
Correct.
Isn't it? Like, there is something to be said about the spectacle, the big reveals of E3 are always memorable. Like, remember back E3 2015 or 16 when Sony had that press conference where everything was announced at once. Shenmue,
Exactly.
Final Fantasy 7. Like,
On the edge of my seat,
yeah.
like the popcorn situation is real. Yeah, this year I'm like, what? Is this going to be as big as it always has been year on year?
It'll be interesting to see, and like by the time you watch this, we probably would have seen. But like in the spirit of all things E3, let's still look on all things E3. So Megs, you and Dermy and Cringe take a look back at the previous Xbox and PlayStation press conferences, don't you?
Exactly. So Jack was in town, and we had the chance to talk about all the previous Microsoft and Sony E3 presentations and kind of the successes and the flops they had in all the other times.
Yep, and I take a look at the current state of E3 and its relevance nowadays with all these leaks and on the level. And plus, we also have a review of Detroit Become Human, David Cage's new robot game.
That's Matt's review, and I'm super excited to hear it because for the first time ever, the Uncanny Valley actually works, and the storyline is incredible.
Look forward to all that in our episode, and let's just move straight into it, shall we?
Enjoy.
It seems like the current group of consoles, like Xbox and PS4, have been with us forever. But it was only back in 2013 that the Xbox One was originally launched during E3. Now, I'm Dermy, the Ghost of E3 past, and I'm joined by the Ghost of E3 present and future, Megan and Cringy here. Let's have a bit of a look back at the Xbox One, how it started, because that's kind of amusing now, and where it's going, what we expect to get out of this E3.
Yep.
Well, first, let's start by playing a game. Lunatic or Visionary?
I'm not sure
column B.
which. Yeah, a little bit of both. It doesn't matter. It was a wild ride. Like, thinking about Don Mattrick and what Don Mattrick did in retrospect is incredible. But like for people at Microsoft at the time, it would have been just absolutely haunting to see it just go from the height of Xbox, like 360 really hit its stride. Like,
Yes.
I feel like from like 2010 through 2013, there was like, they just kept, they hit a high note and they just maintained it for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then 2013, when they did their, I think it was a May 2013 presentation, and they were like, this is what the Xbox One is out at Redmond.
TV sports?
Kind of makes sense, but it's also a really terrible way to like sell it to the enthusiasts, right? It's not great.
Well, they got received very badly.
Yeah.
And it'd be fair to say the reaction was savage, wasn't it?
It was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Remember, you could trade in games, but you had to go deregister them at places like EB?
Yeah, so they had some funky DRM stuff going on where...
Consumers didn't understand.
No, well, I mean, they didn't either.
Yeah, but there were conversations where they would release one article saying it was going to go one way, and then change their minds and say it was going to go another way. No, you're wrong. This is how we're going to do it, and then it ended up being retracted.
Really, consumers were really frustrated, or potential consumers, I guess, were like, this needs to be connected to the internet. This needs to ping Xbox's servers every 24 hours, which is something they were saying at the time. And a week after E3, when they lost all of their publicity opportunity, they did a 180, which was the worst time to do that because, as we now know, people were still quite hesitant after launch, months later.
I think they set the precedent in around the E3 time to make those big calls and make a mistake. It was one of the first times that I think a big brand such as Microsoft had done that.
Yeah.
And to retract and change their minds and listen to the audience, listen to their consumers when social media was at a peak during that time, they were listening to everyone's outcries and complaints, and they changed their minds, which I think is, it's a positive thing that they're reaching out to the market.
But if you look at what was in the original Xbox One announcement, now you said there was family game sharing.
Yeah.
Steam does that now.
Yeah.
They had the Kinect, which was spyware. you know, Google Home and Alexa now to do that for you. So a lot of the things they were trying to do, we've found as we've gone more to digital distribution especially, we found that sort of creep in.
I think for them it was much more of a marketing exercise in them, again, a bad marketing exercise in them not knowing what their audience was. Like, sure, a lot of people are still going digital, but the problem is, within Australia specifically, it's still really, really difficult to go all digital because so many people just still aren't up to par as far as like internet connectivity and having the infrastructure for that, whether it's a 500 gig hard drive or whatever else, right?
Also, retailer sales kick ass when it's a really good time
That's
of
the
year.
thing,
Like,
yeah.
why would you buy digital when you can just wait a couple of weeks, go to your retailer and grab it for a quarter of the price?
Yeah.
And there's nothing I enjoy more being still an ADSL that's pretty crappy than having a 12 gig download every time I go to start a game.
I don't want to talk about
You
it.
do
12
it
gigs is
overnight.
nothing. If you're only got 12
Overnight, you
gig
reckon?
download, you're laughing.
The Xbox, since that disaster, they haven't done too bad. They've had some decent games. I've got some exclusive ones I'll put here.
Oh, a
But-
handful.
Quote,
Let's be real.
quote exclusive.
exclusive.
Yeah.
They haven't. Look, they're not. I mean, their games are also appearing on the PC. They're not really the exclusive console. One of the others says that. But the games that have come out of, they've been pretty good though. They have made up a bit of ground, haven't they?
I mean, it depends on like at what point you're talking about. When you're talking about, like, I think it was early-ish 360, they were having a lot of games coming out that, I mean, at the time I wasn't on the console bandwagon, but I mean, Microsoft published like Mass Effect 1, which went on to be like a huge part of like the gaming psyche, I guess. And then Halo, obviously, Gears was a big one. And I think they've had like a few smaller ones as well that they've since sort of like let go to sort of do their own situation. But at this point, the big ones are really like Forza, Gears, Halo. That's pretty much it. And you can only sort of cycle those through every, only so often.
Yeah, they have their own life cycle, definitely.
And so they've kind of leaned on stuff like PUBG, where it's like console exclusivity, and
Correct.
it's only like a matter of time
For
till
a
that
period of
jumps.
time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Tomb Raider
Rise of
was
the
the
Tomb Raider,
same.
and that didn't really work out so well for them. But it's like you said, a lot of it is console exclusive, and then you can play on PC as well, which also kind of ties into the like Xbox Play Anywhere program.
I agree with you. I think Sony have always had the leg up with console exclusives, and I think it's going to be a really interesting E3 coming up this year to see what they pull out that's interesting and fresh IP that hasn't had a whole like chain of games previously.
Ladies and gentlemen, set your alarm to early o'clock, decanter your most exquisite energy drink, and set your keyboard to all caps hype, because the Electronic Entertainment Expo is upon us once again. Yes, it's the annual debutante ball of gaming, where publishers present to the world their fine new darlings. Like a debutante ball, the dudes come smelling of cheap cologne. And also like a debutante ball, E3 is looking more and more like a dinosaur in today's gaming landscape, old and irrelevant. Maybe 2018 has just been a bad year for E3, given how basically everything has leaked before the show. Ubisoft had to hastily confirm Assassin's Creed Odyssey after a photo surfaced of a promotional keychain. As an aside, if Ubisoft continues to ape Nintendo for naming conventions, look forward to Assassin's Creed Sunshine, Assassin's Creed Desmond is Missing, and Assassin's Creed Kart 8 Deluxe. And many companies had their future titles unceremoniously unveiled in early May after Walmart Canada leaked a bunch of unannounced games on its pre-order page. Unsurprisingly, Walmart Canada was deeply apologetic for this mistake, eh? Amongst the leaked titles was the hitherto unconsidered Rage 2, which was exactly how Bethesda PR felt after this leak. Even outside of these leaks though, publishers are avoiding E3 and detailing their games beforehand. Battlefield 5 and Call of Duty Black Ops 4 were both revealed in the month leading up to E3. And speaking of Bethesda, the company announced Fallout 76 not through a splashy E3 press conference, but after the end of a day-long stream which consisted of a test card and a Vault Boy bobblehead. This stream had 2 million unique viewers. If people are this willing to watch a stream so mentally unstimulating, look out for my marathon streams of watching grass grow, paint drying live, and my kitchen rules. It's not just games though that are leaking. More and more publishers are reducing their presence at E3 or even disregarding the expo altogether. EA is shunning the E3 show floor for the 3rd year running, opting instead to host a satellite event nearby. And last year, it even decided not to bring a teleprompter along. Boy, howdy, Mr. Influencer, consider me, influenced. This year, Microsoft is also moving away from the traditional E3 booth, instead showing off its Xbox offerings at a neighboring theater. But don't worry, Microsoft will still be on the E3 show floor, dedicating booth space for its game streaming service, Mixer. You know, Mixer. The service so few people know about that the search term, "What is Mixer?" is more popular than the search term for Mixer itself. This is a far cry from even 5 years ago when E3 was seen as the pinnacle of gaming announcements. You just had to be at E3, even if you didn't have that much to offer. Just look at Konami. 1 year, in order to keep the show floor space, the company rocked up with some fold-out chairs and a projector with Metal Gear Solid 5 on it. This is because back in the day, publishers had few opportunities to make a splashy impression for their new game. They had E3, they had a feature story in a magazine or online. Maybe they got Korn to write a song for them. Fun fact, if you play that solo into a Commodore 64, you'll get an image of Korn vocalist Jonathan Davis in a kiddie pool full of Ubisoft money. The pre-release cycle has changed so much in that time, and E3 is no longer the gatekeeper of unreleased games. Why hold out until a press conference where you can find out about a new title directly from the developer? Why settle for an FMV trailer when you can be led through gameplay by your favorite YouTube personality? Maybe not Old Mate though from before. And why merely read about the hottest upcoming games when you can play them yourself at one of the many public expos like PAX East, Gamescom, PAX Australia, Tokyo Game Show, PAX West, PAX Data Control, or PAX Enamel Repair? And that's all assuming people are devoting their attention to these highly marketed AAA games. Two of the past year's most popular titles, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and Fortnite Battle Royale, were not unveiled as part of some big splashy E3 show, but released in early access with zero tacky expo swag to be seen. So E3 2018 has almost none of the new announcements, and the ones that it does have aren't the most relevant popular games right now. It's missing a chunk of its major booth holders, and it is far from the only expo in the business. E3 is no longer the giant it was. I say all of this, but I will still be watching the big E3 press conferences and reading the big news just like in years past, because I'm a filthy hypocrite. And because E3 still has one advantage over everything else: the spectacle. The archaic extravagance of E3 and the modern age of live streaming have unintentionally given us a unique collective experience unlike anything else. Hundreds of thousands of us are all watching together for when the marketing tricks come together. We're all ready with our Twitter accounts when something cringeworthy inevitably happens. And since EA is holding a press conference this year, you better believe there's going to be some cringe. E3 may be a dinosaur, but at least we can still enjoy it. At least while it's still around. And that is everything that has happened in the world, ever.
Well, it's hard to believe that it's only been a couple of years since the PS4 came out. It was 2013 E3. It got announced. It was quite a trolley announcement. We'll go through that quickly. I'm Dermy, the ghost of E3 past, and I'm joined by the ghost of E3 present and future, Meg and Cringy. Now, the PS4, we looked at the Xbox One launch,
Yes.
and that was, would disaster be a good enough word?
Look, part of it was disastrous because of Don Matrick and a lot of other things, but I think a lot of it was just like them fumbling and not knowing what they were doing. And then obviously
Rushing into
Sony,
it.
and then Sony capitalizing on all of it.
Well-
yeah, and taking the piss.
And they did, and it was
Yep.
some of the. I mean, Sony loves trolling, and I'm not a Sony fan as such. Comment below, but I do appreciate their trolling.
It makes sense that they would jump on it,
Yeah.
100%.
And their ad, remember their ad? How to trade games on the PlayStation.
Yep, and they had these like
Amazing.
beautiful graphics, like how to trade, and then like step one, and then just this, and it's just
The
like
internet would have
thank
gone
you.
mental. I
Yep.
think even today, if it done something like this, like social media would have gone off chops forever.
Yeah, so they absolutely nailed their intro, their launch. They absolutely nailed it. Thanks largely to Microsoft, but they did really, and they got a massive early lead, didn't they?
They did. Well, they've maintained that. You have, I think at this point we're around the 60 or 70 million mark for PS4 globally, and I believe Xbox is like around half of that, like give or take a bit. But it's been such a big lead, and with a lot of the online stuff, particularly the cross-platform stuff, which is like a very hot topic at the moment, even for like Switch, Sony is very routinely being like, we're not in a position where we need to bow
Exactly.
to
We don't need
multi-plat.
to do that. Yeah.
Part of the reason for that, and they do focus on their exclusive games.
Yeah.
Now, it has been pointed out to me by Cringy that 2 of these are not
First party. So-
but they're still exclusive.
Yeah, so it was God of War and Horizon here are both first-party internal studios as far as Sony's concerned. Yakuza and Persona, like, I think that speaks a lot to how Sony's in a much better position compared to Microsoft.
They still make
where-
Vita games and sell Vitas in Japan.
Well, that's
Crazy.
So
again,
what?
it
What
speaks
is-
to their.
What a time to be alive.
What's a Vita?
Sony has incredible brand loyalty,
Yeah.
right back to the original PlayStation, where you've got people that I don't think will ever. If they could announce a PlayStation every year, I reckon there's a large part of their fan base that'll just buy a new one each year that
You're
is
not
completely
wrong.
incompatible with everything
And
else.
make the rest of them pretty salty. But yeah, I think you're totally right. I think these games are so strong, and for years now, they've had a really great upper hand
Yeah.
for exclusive titles, just like the ones you see on the screen. It's incredible.
And Naughty Dog.
Yeah,
I
Last
mean-
of Us 2's coming. It's going to be a good E3, fam. Looking forward to it.
Downside for me, if you're querying their support database backward compatibility, there is none. What are you expecting or looking forward to either? I guess Horizon Zero Dawn 2 for you.
I mean, I'm happy with it as it is. Like, why make sequels for the sake of making sequels? I say leave
Okay,
it. It's
more the same.
perfect. Yeah. Well, Detroit's coming out in a couple of days. That's really exciting for me. But
God, that crept up, Jesus.
yeah, no. And yeah, Last of Us 2, 100%. Yeah.
I think
What about you?
I think for E3, like PS4 and for Sony, I think that they will continue the thing that they're best known for at this point. Like, they really push on exclusives. They
Yeah,
push
I mean,
on like,
Spider-Man's coming.
yeah, like they've got a lot of stuff that people are super excited for. Like
Yeah.
Spider-Man Collector's Edition sold out like that in
Oh,
Australia.
it
was
went.
crazy.
I missed out. I'm super mad about
yeah,
it.
no, it was super fast.
They have confirmed definitely no PlayStation 5 announcements, at least this year.
Honestly, like I think
It
they,
is in development.
they might. Oh,
confirmed.
well, yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they end up coming out with like a hey, here's like a revised PSVR. Like if they try and push that more than the PS4 Pro, I think, because PS4.
Do people want that? I don't think they do, and I
think-
don't think people will get hyped from that.
I think it's them just giving consumers an opportunity to embrace VR more.
The
Because
tech.
right now, like PSVR is kind of
Yeah, it really is.
It hasn't dropped, but it's plateaued, I think.
Yeah, it has.
And so for them to sort of inject it with like, hey, here's more support for PSVR devs, here's more PSVR hardware,
Cool.
so that you like we can reassure you in some sense that people are buying this hardware, people are going to buy your game.
Yeah.
But as far as like new initiatives, we were talking about Xbox before, being like, hopefully they might bring some like more backward compat news, like initiatives. I think is where Microsoft works well. For Sony, what are some major initiatives that they've had in the last few years outside of PS Now?
and we got Death Stranding coming, which is going to probably be the game of E3.
But it's more games. It's games.
That's
games.
right. Yeah, but still, there's stronger IPs that Microsoft are going to be launching with this year.
Yeah.
Calling now.
Sorry about it.
Yeah.
Now, androids are a very amazing, inquisitive thing, aren't they? We've got so many questions as humans. Do androids dream of electric sheep? How do they feel, and how do they emote? And how do their genitals work? I mean, all these questions and many, many more are answered within the latest PlayStation 4 cinematic exclusive by Quantic Dream, Detroit Become Human. I'm here joined with Porky. We're going to be talking about some of the nuances of androids and humanity in general.
That's right. The next game, as you mentioned, from David Cage and Quantic Dream. Now, some of us in the gaming industry have been following this one for a long time. Coming from the studio known for games such as Fahrenheit, such as Heavy Rain, such as Beyond Two Souls. Heavy Rain recently got re-released on PS4, so you might be familiar with that one. And if you know these type of games, the gameplay hasn't really changed much for this one, for Detroit. It's still a lot of, basically, you're either doing one of three things. You're exploring cutscenes with QuickTime events. You're either exploring in a bit of an adventure game style, or you're making some big, harsh, rational decisions, very important moral decisions.
Now, things are very much different and also quite similar in the context of Detroit Become Human. You play as three different perspectives, so three different kinds of androids. So it's Connor, he's also like an investigative android who's tasked to help with the police force in solving android-related murders. You've got Kara, a previous android bot who's basically escaping a very abusive father figure. As well as Marcus, so a very recent revolutionary who is leading the charge against android rights and equality for all.
Yeah, so you might even recognize the name Kara from the 2013 tech demo that Quantic Dream released on YouTube, and it's been that long in the making. Its game's been, a lot of years in the making, 5+ years, and it kind of shows. It looks amazing. Still a little bit of that uncanny valley you're used to of the Quantic Dreams,
but when it comes down with Androids in particular, I feel that it kind of plays to the strengths, where they actually have an excuse for uncanny valley in the context of Androids.
That's right. It's been a complaint that's been laid before of these games. When you get so close to recreating a realistic human, you've just got that weird level where it's not quite perfect, and that kind of plays off with the Android perspective. But look, if you haven't played one of these type of games before, it's easy to look at it and kind of wonder how it plays, what you're going to be doing the whole time. Now, I mentioned the 3 core gameplay loops before, and if you're scared of QuickTime events, then there's a lot of QuickTime events, a lot of cutscenes, a lot of cinematics. It's a story-driven game, so gameplay isn't necessarily the inherent part, and I think it plays fine. I think the way the gameplay, as with a lot of Quantic Dream games, there's a lot of fail states. There's a lot of ways to lose. There's a lot of ways to mess things up, lose characters, permanent death. And because the ante's so high, I think the QuickTime events, they're kind of fun, because I played a lot of this game literally on the edge of my seat. I was really tense. I was really excited, knowing that if I mess up at any time, it can have these major ramifications for the next 10 hours of story I play. It got me involved, got me interested.
I feel there's a lot more kind of free-flowing, nuances to it in particular. I feel that your experience and my experience differed very differently, especially the endings. Most of the previous Quantic Dream games tended to kind of converge to a point where your choices didn't exactly mean too much, but I feel in Detroit they're probably the closest they've ever been to truly creating a free-form narrative experience. And I think it's pretty damn awesome. It's a pretty good effort.
That's an excellent point. I've loved, since I finished the game, I've loved watching streamers on Twitch replay it to see all the decisions they make and to see how drastically the story can change. And it really is quite crazy. Like, personally, I saw all these scenes I was missing out on, extra scenes I was gaining just because of the decisions I made. So with a lot of adventure games, some other adventure games, get panned a bit when they realize that beneath the surface, your decisions aren't really mattering that much. I think in this one, they really do matter. Just how differently and drastically the story can change.
And if I can gush about one thing in particular, it's definitely the pacing. I feel that Quantic Dream in particular have nailed it on this front. In previous Quantic Dream games, you've got games like Heavy Rain, where the first half is slow and dreadful, and the last half is actually pretty decent, whereas Fahrenheit had an amazing first half and then goes ball-tearingly off-the-wall crazy and a bit unhinged and a bit strange in the second half. And I feel they've kind of ironed things out and gotten it down to a science.
That's right. As we mentioned, I've played all of these games, and to be honest, the last one from this company, Beyond Two Souls, I didn't really like it at all. I found it really boring. I found a lot of it tedious, and I think, as you mentioned, it's a great point. It's what they've nailed this time is the pacing. I think there's constantly exciting scenes, and it's not always just action. Sometimes it really is just character development, but it's really done in a good way this way that keeps you interested, keeps you excited. And as I mentioned, knowing that you can mess up at any point keeps you interested, keeps you excited. But I think we've analysed this from a pretty mechanical, fairly from the gameplay mechanics, but I think the real question, what David Cage wants us to ask is, did the game mean anything to you? Did it resonate with you? Did it change your life?
Well, I mean, I can't really say, I'm not exactly an Android, so what am I supposed to say?
I think that's just what an Android would say.
Actually, I changed my mind. It did resonate with me. I have to be honest, I'm kind of surprised how much Porky and Matt liked Death Swap Become Human.
I'm not surprised at all. It's a beautiful game. And the Uncanny Valley, it makes sense with the robots. I think it's a great move.
Yeah, like it's the one thing that David Cage did right here. But like from what I've heard as well, like the game also delves into civil rights metaphors, not exactly smoothly, but it seems like he's doing it much better than he has in previous games where he's had these lofty aspirations for the human condition. And it's
Beyond
turned
Two Souls
out
was okay. Like, it was good. And so was Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was before its time, and everyone loved it when it came out.
Yeah, press X to Jason.
That's fine.
Press X to Sean.
I think it still was really ahead of its time, and the fact that the consequential game narrative is something that is still one of my most favorite genres, and he still absolutely nails it in this game.
And we've seen, to be fair, like we've seen more and more games with choices that impact gameplay nowadays. With the entire Telltale Games franchises, like The Walking Dead, especially.
Oh, Dawn, it's one of my favorites.
Dawn
yeah,
as well.
Absolutely. Until Dawn was great. I replayed that to do the God mode where I try not to kill anybody, but then also did it for all the trophies to kill every single person that I could, and it was excellent.
I'm surprised that's not just the first one. We are talking about a serial killer horror game here.
It's one of my favorites. I love serial killer stuff.
Yeah, but I'm just very interested to see what David Cage has to offer in the future. And we'll discuss that future in a later episode of New Game Plus. But until then, thank you very much for watching us this week. If you want to watch more New Game Plus, we are online at www.newgameplus.tv, and we are on all the socials, aren't we?
All the socials, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you name it.
Pinterest, I think we have a Pinterest account as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think we have a Vero account.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, we should really get rid of that.
I'd say so.
Yeah, but look us up on our socials. New Game Plus TV, one word, no spaces, on all the channels. Thank you very much for joining me.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
And we will see you viewers next week.